So what is good, y'all? It is Anime K here, and we are back with another video. And today we're going to be talking about the Valhalla fight and the Tenjiku arc fight, and why I think that Valhalla, that arc, just does a better job at character development, does a better job with the characters itself, does a better job with the fights. Now, I think it's very simple, and it's like I just said, it's character development, I think it's the backstories, and I think all that leading up to the ending of the arcs. I think the Valhalla arc was just so much better, and the ending and the way it pays off and Badgie's death and the emotions in it. For me personally anyway, I think this arc is done so much better, and I'm going to explain to you guys why I think both arcs is better in this video. So make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share the video, and if you want more videos like this, hey, check out the rest of my videos. And let's get into it. Now, in this arc, the Tenjiku arc, which we're going to talk about first here, we're introduced to a character named Izuna, and we find out Izuna is Emma and Mikey's half-brother from Emma, right? And we also find out, because we get a little flashback where we see Shindro and Izuna going on bike rides, getting stuff to eat. Shindro and Izuna were very close, you know, and Shindro was someone who was very important in Izuna's life, because up until that point, Izuna was in a foster home. He had no family, he had no one around him, right? So he was very important to Izuna. Now later on we find out that Izuna isn't actually Shindro's half-brother, and this sends Izuna into a spiral, because imagine finding out that the person who you thought was your older brother is not actually your older brother. Now when he confronts Shindro about it, Shindro's like, Izuna, does it really matter? And again, like I said in my other video, I was on the fence with this one, because on one side it does matter, because like imagine finding out the person who you thought was your older brother is not actually your older brother and he's been lying to you all this time. And then on the other hand, I was like, well, the relationship's already there, so what's the point? And maybe it makes it even more, not even more better, but he's doing it out of the kindness of his own heart, right? Because he knows you at least have some relation to his family. But Izuna finding this out is what sends him down a spiral, which is the reason why he wants to kill Maki. Now, my problem with this was, I think it would have been better if he was Maki's half-brother, right? I think it would have added more to the story. I think it would have, I don't know, added a bit more intensity to the story, especially when Emma ends up dying by the hands of Kisaki, which is indirectly by Izuna as well. I think it would have added more to the story, but I think when we find out that he's not actually Mikey's half-brother, I don't know, it was a bit of a letdown for me. And I think, you know, the way they look the same, the way they fight, I think it just would have been perfect. I think you should have just left them as brothers. Now, you still could have had the jealousy part, because he could have been jealous for the fact that Mikey spent so much time with Shindro, he grew up with Shindro, he's Shindro's full brother, while he's only Shindro's half-brother. And maybe the fact that Shindro died at the hands of one of Mikey's friends can go into why he hates Mikey so much. So I still think you could have had them as half-brothers, but that's just my opinion. So now, talking about the guy who actually killed Shindro, let's move on to Kazutora. Now, Kazutora is introduced during the Valhalla fight, right? And he's introduced when Badgie says he's leaving Toman and he's joining a different gang. Now, everyone is confused. The audience is confused. I was confused. Why is Badgie leaving? Because Badgie's been there since season 1. Now, we find out he's joining a gang called Valhalla. Now, one day Kazutora goes into Togamichi's school and brings him to the hideout of Valhalla, right? And during this moment, we find out that one, Badgie is joining Valhalla and that Kazutora is a part of Valhalla as well, and two, that Badgie and Kazutora are both founding members of Toman. So already it's adding more to the story, because you find out that they're both founding members of the gang that Togamichi is in now. And also it makes you wonder, why is Kazutora not a part of Toman now, and why did he leave? Now, we later find out from Mikey and Draken that Kazutora, he leaves because he is responsible for Mikey's older brother's death. And the reason why Kazutora kills Mikey's older brother, well, it was an accident. He went into the shop and tried robbing this bike, right? And he tries killing this guy, but we later find out that the person he kills is Shindro, but he doesn't know it's Shindro at the time. And I think what also adds to Kazutora's character here is he decides that he wants to kill Mikey because he can't accept that he killed Shindro, right? Which is really interesting to me. I really like that, because it added so much complexity to his character, because it's like he couldn't handle the guilt of killing Shindro, so he just blames Mikey and decides to kill Mikey, because I guess it makes it easier for him to shift the blame. Now, I'm not saying this is the right way of thinking, obviously, but it's just very interesting to see that in the story. And I think him being the founding member, and also why he left Toman, it added more to the story. It built up this aura for me, and it built up this amazing character setup. So then when the fight was going to happen, right, the fight meant more to me personally as a reader, I mean as a watcher, sorry, it meant more to me. And I think what made it even more kind of messed up is that Mikey was the one that actually vouched for Kazutora to get a lighter sentence, because obviously if a family member vouches for you, you know, the court's going to give you a lighter sentence. So obviously the guy who was killed's brother vouching for the guy who actually did it is the reason why Kazutora was able to get out of prison and why we see him here today. So in these both fights, right, Toman is very outnumbered in the Tenjiku fight and the Valhalla fight, right? But what the differences between both fights is, with the Valhalla fight, again, the story does a better job at building up this fight. So Togamichi goes back to the future and he goes to see Draken, who is on death row, right? And we find out that the leader of Valhalla was actually Mikey, which we're like, well, how was it Mikey? Because we're about to fight them in the past. And we find out that Mikey takes over Valhalla after Toman loses to Valhalla. Basically, Valhalla merges with Toman, right? And Mikey becomes head of it. And who was the one that made up this plan? Well, you guessed it, it was Kasaki. Because this was Kasaki's plan, was to merge them both together and make Mikey evil and controlling behind the scenes, and basically be the Obito, I guess, of Valhalla, right? Leading behind the scenes. So another thing that makes this fight so interesting as well, because we also find out from Draken that Baji dies, and this is what basically sends Maki down the dark path as what you see in the future Maki, where obviously Toman is now into criminal activities, doing stuff like dealing with narcotics. So this is what sends Maki down this path. And what makes the fight so interesting, learning this information, is Togamichi has to watch out for Baji while fighting at the same time. So it's almost like, for me, I couldn't take my eyes off this fight, because even though Togamichi, right, he isn't a good fighter and he normally gets his ass kicked, this wasn't his main goal. His main goal wasn't to beat them, his main goal was to keep Baji alive. So it gave more meaning to the fight, because while the fight was going on, right, we've seen Togamichi keeping an eye on Baji, and us as a reader, we were like, well, we've got to keep an eye on Baji as well, we've got to watch him, at least for me anyway. And in the end, even though Togamichi ends up failing and Baji does end up dying, right, by Kazutora's hands, which is even more crazy, right, I think Baji's death was just more impactful from everything we learned previously, with Baji being a founding member, how close him and Mikey were, how Baji went to prison as well. I think all that was what made his death even more impactful. And also, when Baji dies, we get one of the greatest scenes ever, where Maki is just kicking the hell out of Kazutora and he just keeps punching him and punching him and punching him. We see Maki almost emotionless as he's basically trying to kill Kazutora, right? Which, that scene alone is just one of the best scenes in Toyko Revengers, right? I love that scene. I love seeing Maki just punching him, and Kazutora just can't do anything about it. And also, it's really a satisfying scene, because Kazutora, up until this point, he's just been an annoying, villainless character, right? Imagine someone killing your brother and then they turn it around and blame you for your brother's death, right? Well, at least blames you for why it all happened, and then wants to kill you after. I think it's just such messed up logic that it was just kind of satisfying to see Kazutora in this position. But at the same time, we were worried with Togamichi, because if Mikey continues and actually kills someone for the first time, it's going to send him down a dark path, and we will see the Mikey who was in the future, who is very dark, who's into gangs, like I said before. And with the Izuna Mikey fight, I think I was expecting more from this fight, because as the arcs go on, if you see with the theme of Toyko Revengers, as these arcs go on, the characters get stronger and stronger and stronger. So I thought Izuna was going to be this guy who's going to be very strong, because before this point, we did know that he wasn't actually Maki's brother. So I thought the fact that he's Maki's brother as well, and you see with most of Maki's family, right, they were all strong, or they were all intelligent in some way, right? So I just assumed that, yo, this fight is going to be big, it's going to be intense, this is going to be Maki's biggest challenge yet when he eventually shows up, because you knew Maki was going to show up eventually, right? Now, Izuna does a good job at blocking some of Maki's kicks, don't get me wrong, he does a good job at defending against Maki, but eventually when Maki gets serious, he takes Izuna down pretty quickly, right? And that's one problem that I had, was the build up for this fight. I expected more and it just didn't pay off for me personally. I don't know if you guys actually enjoy this fight, because a lot of manga readers enjoy this fight. I don't know if it's better in the manga, but in terms of the anime, it wasn't really a good fight at all. Whereas when I look at the Valhalla fight, right, Maki just beating the hell out of Kazutora because of what Kazutora just did, killing Baji, just meant more to me and was more intense for me. And I was like on the edge of my seat, like, whoa, what's going to happen? Is Maki actually going to kill him? Which I thought could be a possibility. Whereas Izuna and Maki, as soon as Maki gets serious, he does this famous kick and knocks Izuna down, and Izuna can't really do much after that. I mean, even before that, Maki just starts dodging all his hits. So either Izuna wasn't a challenge for Maki, or I don't know. Maybe Mikey was hindered a bit because he thought it was his brother and didn't know what to do and didn't actually want to fight him. But I just personally took this fight as Mikey was holding back until he eventually got serious and just kicked him in the head and was done with it. So again, I think Valhalla does a better job with the fights. And again, what made the fights better is I'm going to go back to the backstory and the build up of each characters. But let's conclude this video and let's move on to the final parts of these arcs. Now, as we conclude both arcs, right, both Baji and Izuna die. Now, the differences with these deaths is Izuna, I didn't really care about his death. Maybe it's because I didn't have enough time with the character, which I will admit, but I didn't really care about his death. I didn't care that he died. I wasn't really bothered. I literally had no thought about it. Or if I did have a thought, my only thought was, didn't really care. Now with Baji's death, it was different because of the setup, because of the backstory of the character, because all the emotions, because obviously him and Mikey's relationship, right? I was like, wow, I was really sad. Plus Baji had been there since season 1 as well. Plus finding out he's also a founding member as well. All that boiled up into his last words to Togamichi when he said, "You take care of Toman and Maki for me," and then he ends up dying. Plus with Chifia as well, because Chifia, if I'm pronouncing his name wrong, I apologize, he was very upset too. I think one, his death meant more to the characters in the show, which probably made it more emotional for me as well, and his death meant more to me as a watcher of the anime. And again, I think the ending is what sets both arcs apart. Now the ending of the Tenjiku arc, right, with obviously Kasaki's death, right, I've talked about Kasaki's death in my last video, so I won't go too much into it in this video, but what I will say is I didn't agree with it. I think it was dumb, I think it was stupid. He gets hit by a truck, so I think that is also what ruins this arc as well. Whereas with Baji's death, it had more emotion to it. Even really Kazutora, who you see, he kind of regrets doing it after a while. And then with Mikey as well, that being his best friend with Draken, them all being founding members, I think it just added more emotion to it, which the Tenjiku arc just failed to do for me personally. Because I think the backstories in the Tenjiku arc, right, they were a bit dumb, a bit stupid, and for the most part, I just didn't care about them. I just didn't care. I'm sorry about that. The only death that really affected me was Emma's death, because Emma had been there for so long and for what it did to Mikey as well. And for me to end this video, I will say that again, what makes the Valhalla arc better for me is the setups, it's the characters, it's the deaths. And I think the Tenjiku arc should have took what the Valhalla arc did and improved on it, but sadly, it kind of regressed a bit for me personally. The arcs kind of regressed, but that's just my opinion. Did you prefer the Valhalla fight or did you prefer the Tenjiku fight as well? Which arc do you think was better? Which arc was better written? Do you think I'm wrong? Do you think the Tenjiku arc was written better? Let me know in the comments below. And look, this has been Anime K. Thank you for watching, listening, or however you choose to indulge in my content, and peace. I am out.